Hello and welcome to the first episode of Peer Support Book Club. I am your host, Ree.
I'm Marisol, and I'm just kind of sitting in.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a book. The goal of this series is to provide our listeners with the information and tools held in books and give it back to you all. It's also to destigmatize and to encourage the act of reading, but you do not have to read any of the books we discuss. It is just to talk about it and see how this information applies to us in our lives as college students. Hi! The first book on our list is called We Will Not Cancel Us by Adrienne Maree Brown. This is a fun little book. It's like 80 pages, so it's super quick, super jam-packed with information if you were interested in reading it.
And this is a book I have actually not read. I was just skimming through it just right now.
Yeah, this is, it's a good book, honestly, to skim through, because it's like, since it's like a book of essays, you don't really need to they are connected, but they're like, you can just read like one really quick and then be like, wow,
this is really good.
Yeah, I agree.
From just reading the back, I could get a gist of the title's pretty self-explanatory too. We Will Not Cancel Us. But it reminds me, just by reading the back, of the whole thing in, I don't know if it was 2020 or for before then, I can't remember, when people like Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star were getting canceled.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like everybody started getting canceled for like the littlest things after that. And I'm kind of at like, when is it too much? Or is it valid to be canceling these people? And obviously, this was just something I heard about on social media, and I didn't do my own research about it. So I don't know, something to think about.
Yeah, the fun thing about this book is that one of the essays actually is set in like 2020, where it's like COVID-19 and the horrors. That's not what it's called. I'm sorry for lying. Unthinkable Thoughts, Call Out Culture in the Age of COVID-19. It's come from a blog post that was posted during that time, but it was rewritten actually because the author themselves. Yeah.
So these are multiple different authors in one book because they're all separate essays written by different people?
They're made by the same author. So it's a collection of essays all by Adrienne Maree Brown, but the afterword is by Malkia Divich Cyril, which was actually pretty interesting. I love afterwords. They're so cool. But yeah. No, it does go into back on the cancel culture thing. It does go into that and how it gives us strategies to be able to tell when a cancellation or call out is valid and when it is not. Some of the terms she uses in particular that really stood out to me while reading it was a feeding frenzy. So essentially, that all these people who claim to be, pro left kind of thing, someone is found to not be acting particularly perfect in a particular way, making some kind of mistake, and then very suddenly everyone's dogpiling on them. And it doesn't seem to be like genuine in that sense. It's more like a lust for blood online.
Yeah, especially online. I feel like people just dog on the people who are getting canceled.
Yeah.
And it's just more so like, you're an idiot, you're stupid, and it's not really like, not necessarily educating them on what they did wrong, because I'm sure they know what they did wrong.
Yeah.
But more so like, I don't know, it's good to hold people accountable for what they did, right. But dogpiling on them, like, I'm sure they've heard like so many insults from millions of people. Like, it's not even celebrities necessarily, like people's I hate Twitter, but it's a good example for this. So people's like random civilians tweets just going viral, and people just like unpopular opinion, whatever they have said.
Yeah.
People just dogpile on them for anything, and not necessarily like if they're being canceled, just like different opinions too. I don't know if that like is a theme in the book, because again, I did not read it, but
that's okay. That's what this is for. I read it. No, yeah, it is a theme, but it's like particularly focused on like how we can apply the ways that we act online to the ways that we act in real life, and how to like build like say a society sans the way the American government operates, like the idea of like a prison system, the idea of executions. Not necessarily related. Actually, it is related. There is a very interesting video. Actually, let me find that right now, Loki. There's a video essay that was done a few years back on executions and the way that like their function in society was never like it was never really meant to serve public justice, but rather to serve the state in a way where it's like, "Ooh, you did bad. Oh no, state no like when you do bad.
You're right.
Kill." So,
oh my gosh.
That's really that's a really, really, really short way of saying it. But yeah, it's called The False Evolution of Execution Methods by Jacob Geller. He goes into the history of it and how it went from like, the electric chair to like the chemical methods.
Like lethal injection.
Yeah. Lethal injection is not a more humane way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, chemical cocktail evil.
No.
No, the worst thing ever. But these executions don't actually serve anyone other than the people in charge as like a method to enforce their power.
Right.
So in the state of an online space wherein we're doing, it's not really an execution, but it's more like a enforcement of our own idea of the status quo. In that sense, mirroring the abusive system that we're trying to escape. So, but they also make room for like the idea of like a call out post is important in certain cases, like say one person is beneath someone and the person in power abuses them in some way. A call out is sometimes the only weapon that they have to seek justice, but the thing about like say a cancellation is that a lot of them are conducted in a way where it's like people that they don't know, right? Like the victim is not centered at all. It's rather centering the random people around them, right? Like there's a couple very recent situations. There's Mr. Beast. I'm gonna do Mr. Beast.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't been like super. I used to, obviously during COVID, like we had nothing to do, but I was not super into it. I wasn't a part of cancel culture. I was just like reading everything, and now I just don't keep up with who's getting quote unquote canceled. Like what's the situation with Mr. Beast as an example?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, good for you. I'm so happy for you. Same reason I deleted all my social media. I don't know what's going on anymore, but I knew about Mr. Beast. Not to call myself out, but I was never a fan of Mr. Beast. People would criticize me for it, right? And I'd be like, I just don't like his content. It's not entertaining to me.
Yeah, he's definitely appealing to a certain crowd.
I briefly wanted to jump in to invite you to fill out our listener survey. Our first year was made by and for students to address topics that students see as potential barriers, concerns, or intentional joyous moments to get from our first year to graduation. go to bit.ly/OFY feedback. That's bit.ly/OFY FEED to fill out the survey. As a thank you, you will be entered into a raffle every semester. Thank you, and now back to the episode.
He's like, "Hey guys, I got a list of everything Mr. Beast did wrong." And I remember watching it, and I was like, "Ha ha."
Was this somebody who worked with him previously?
Apparently, he was like a disgruntled employee, but this is not the point. The point
Oh.
is, no, it's like, no, see, it's so addictive. But the thing I'm pointing out is that, like, in myself, right, I wasn't really thinking about the people that Mr. Beast hurt. My first thought was, oh, finally.
Yeah, and that goes back to your point of like us being not like being out for blood, but we're not like focusing the victim. It's more like, oh, I don't want to call them the abuser, the person that is doing wrong.
Yeah,
we center the attention on them rather than the person who was done wrong.
Right. And to be honest, I like the big fan of like the people who like opened up about, well, one guy specifically who opened up about his experience. Like, he is pretty funny. He's a funny guy. Big fan of it. But the I was focused a lot more on my own catharsis in the situation and finding like my own scraping what I personally could out of it, if you know what I mean. Like, and that's not really okay, because then also this doesn't provide room for like say Mr. Beast did genuinely feel bad, right? And he wanted to do better. This is just a hypothetical. There wouldn't be any room for him to do so. I think that is also one of the main themes in the book, where it's like, say, the quote unquote abuser, whether they've like done any like serious abuse or not, due to like the nature of the way we cancel people, there isn't any other option other than like a metaphorical or sometimes a literal death, where instead of like providing a path for growth, which again mirrors the prison system, where it's like they will not allow people who say stole a banana from a 7-Eleven and then they get hit with a crime, or the punishment. They get hit for the punishment. They don't really have a way to like return to society. The way the prison system is set up, like even though technically it's like a quote unquote rehabilitation center, they're not given the tools, they're not given the money, they're not given the capacity to actually return to the functioning society, which is a grim mirror of the way that we cancel people. We don't provide people with the information to do better. Like, we use get therapy almost as like a gotcha kind of thing. Like, yeah, there is nuance in this particular situation. Not sometimes we don't need to always center abusers in these particular situations, but in the sense of, if we're going to build a society which is focused on transformative justice and healing, we do have to make room for people to make mistakes, because we are inherently human in that way. But on top of this, the refusal to center victims in these particular situations typically put victims in serious danger. This need to get rid of the abuser and like cut them off tends to have people looking for victims without their consent, airing out their trauma in ways that may be very triggering, and making it so they must come forward in order to move on. Ultimately, there are there's unfortunate nuances in that sense. I think in my particular description of the book, it really confronted my own idea of accountability. To kind of air myself out, it's like it's hard to tell the difference between pro accountability and pro harm, especially if it's like quote unquote self-directed. There's also this idea of like the panopticon that I've been looking into, where it's like this feeling of being watched all the time causes a lot of people to feel really afraid and unable to engage in a lot of online discourse. Give me one second. But that sure is a lot of thoughts. So I'm going to leave you all for now. And thank you, Marisol, for joining us. I am Ree, and I hope that this episode gave you something to think about. Maybe you should try reading the book. It's going to be fun. Thank you.